This conference will now be recorded.
Can somebody confirm if you're able to hear me and able to see my screen, please? You can unmute yourself. We did not put any restrictions, please.
Yes, we can see.
Yes, sir. Yes, we can see, and it is okay with as well.
Thanks for the confirmation. Right. So once again, good morning, good evening, all. I hope all of you are doing good. Let's begin the demo session. So first of all, a warm welcome to you all to Career IT online trainings, and thanks for taking out time in your Saturday evening or Sunday morning, right, from your busy schedule to attend this demo session. We really appreciate it. So let's go ahead and get started without any further delay. So don't you think that it is very important for all of you to know about the faculty or the trainer? Let's assume you're attending this demo session, and probably if everything goes well, you might enroll for the course and you might travel with me at least for 40 to 45 days, right? So don't you think that it is very important for all of you to know about your faculty? What are their strengths? What have they done previously? What are they currently doing? What are their strengths, things and stuff?
Of course, I mean, it is needed.
Right?
It's not essential, but it is needed.
Yes, yes. So let me take this opportunity to introduce myself, folks. So my name is Kranti. I'm one of the technical manager working in one of the MNC in Hyderabad, India. So I do carry 14 plus years of experience in the IT industry, out of which 6 years is especially into the cloud computing technologies, right? So I'm one of the lead corporate trainer in our company. So far I might have trained close to 32,000 people, and the count is still going on, right? So being a project manager or technical manager, being in the IT field, right? Probably being an expert in the technologies that I might be working, I am taking interviews, right? So I've taken some thousands of interviews so far on multiple technologies, right? So I do a lot of market analysis with the help of our talent acquisition team or with our HR team to make sure that how the market is, what kind of opportunities that we have, and what kind of projects that we are getting, how we can go and hire people, right? I do a lot of analysis out of that, right? So though I'm from Hyderabad, I did not put any restriction for me to train the people from Hyderabad or from Telangana, Andhra states, but I train people from India and from abroad as well. So I don't have any boundaries that I've set for myself, right? And the question for you is, I mean, you guys can ask me a question as to Kranti. We have a lot of training institutes in the market now, and a lot of people that are now training people online, right, using Zoom, GoToMeeting, or Microsoft Teams, a lot of other mediums that we have, right? And why you guys might have to go ahead and opt only for Career IT online trainings, right? Why? Because we are unique in the market in terms of providing trainings. So what makes us unique? Let's have a quick discussion with an example, probably, right? So obviously at this end of this course, I'll be walking you guys through the course content that we have, right? So let's assume if a few folks might enroll for this course. So how we go ahead and start our day is probably we are doing demo today, and we are going to start our batch from this Wednesday onwards, right? So if you are going to start the day one, obviously we will pick up a very basic topic. Why? Because we cannot learn DevOps directly. Probably we'll touch base on cloud computing concepts, right? Then we'll move on to Azure fundamentals, and we'll move on to Azure DevOps concepts. Why? Because what I believe in is if you don't have a strong basement, probably you cannot construct a building with multiple stories, right? So probably if you have a very weak basement, probably you might have to stick only yourself to the ground floor, right? So, but in the IT career, it is very important for us to have a strong basement. So we'll basically concentrate on the basics first, right? So on a given day, we will start with the cloud concepts basics from the official theory perspective. Obviously, since all of you guys might be pretty much new to the cloud computing terminologies and technology, so it is probably in the beginning, it might be hard for you to digest or know the terms. So what we do is we will bring in the day-to-day examples, whatever the things that happens in our life. So we will be showcasing them so that you can correlate the examples, right? So once the day-to-day examples is done, probably we will bring in a real-time scenario. So if we take a customer or a client as an example, how this topic is gonna help from them, how this topic is gonna help them in the real time, right? So we'll be discussing from that perspective, right? Then we will be talking about the interview questions on the same day on the respective topic. Why? Because your ultimate goal is to crack an interview and to get a job into Azure DevOps. So without covering interview questions, I believe it is super duper hard for everybody to see, okay, we are learning topics, but what kind of questions that we get, how things happens in real time, people might not be knowing about it. So we'll cover the questions from the real time perspective as well, right? Guys, if you are not speaking up, I request you to go on mute. Actually, it is creating a lot of disturbance. Lakshmi, can you mute the other folks who might not be speaking it up? Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so we will basically cover the theory, the day-to-day examples, the live scenarios from the customer perspective, and what is the value that we are going to add to the customer environment, and interview questions, along with that interview tips and tricks, right? We also conduct 3 mock interviews. So one is in the second week of the course, one is in the middle of the course, and the last one is when we are about to complete the course, right? So why mock interviews? Why? Because being a faculty in the Career IT online training institute, my job is just not log in for the day, go with the topics, and say goodbye for the day. So I'll be monitoring each and every individual who is gonna enroll for this course. Probably you guys might be starting from zero, and obviously there is a saying called zero to hero, right? So forget about hero. Becoming a hero overnight is not so easy. But my assurance for you is I'll at least bring you all from zero to intermediate level, right? So that's where we conduct mock interviews. We'll ask a lot of questions on daily basis by taking out the names to see how they are progressing, what is their communication that they're maintaining with probably confidence, whether the articulation is good or not, whether the grammatical mistake, pronunciation is good or not. Why? Because nowadays English is a very basic, right? So if we don't have proper communication, probably it will be a straight reject in the interview, right? So I'll be covering and telling you guys all the improvement areas that are actually relevant to go ahead and crack the interview, right? So for that, we'll conduct mock interviews. We'll gauge each and everybody's performance and be providing the improvement areas as to in which area you guys have to go ahead and improve upon, right? So that it will help you only to go ahead and crack the interview. Then we'll take case by case and we will help individuals in preparing the resume as well. As per your previous experience, as if you're a fresher or if you're from a non-technical background, we'll help you prepare the resume as well, right? And we will provide guidance on Azure. Why? Because you might have taken a decision to move to Azure cloud computing. So we will be providing you as how would be your career in the next 10 to 15 years if you move to cloud. So on top of this, we are going to cover the corporate equities as well. So you might ask me a question as to Kranti, we are learning Azure DevOps and why we are including corporate equities here. Why? Because do you think a fresher or a non-technical individual knows something about IT company, how things works in IT?
No.
No.
No, right? So I'm here. So on daily basis, the training will happen from a real-time perspective, right? Obviously, we're learning this course to implement this in real time, correct? So who is a customer or who is a client, who is a stakeholder, who is a DevOps engineer, who is a cloud DevOps lead, who is a project manager, who is a general manager or a delivery manager or a AVP, VP, right? How we get projects to our company, how we have to hire the people. Being a DevOps engineer, what would be your roles and responsibilities? How you have to behave in a team, how you have to build up with the rapport with your project manager, lead or customer, right? And how basically you have to sustain once you get a job, right? So all of these things would be taught in the corporate equity so that a fresher or a non-technical individual should not feel uncomfortable once they join an IT company as a DevOps engineer. So I'll be looking into it a lot of perspectives. Everything will be discussed so that once a fresher or a non-technical individual is getting a job, so they will be able to easily sustain. By the time they would be already knowing what are the things that will be happening in a company. So that will be covered, and I don't think that this will be covered by anybody else in the market, right? So I believe this makes us unique in terms of teaching the people and the training from multiple perspectives to make sure that we are being part in each and every journey to make sure that you are cracking the interview and to get a job. So apart from this, I'm multi-cloud certified, so not just from Microsoft Azure perspective, but I've been working on AWS, GCP, Alibaba Cloud, and DevOps, right? So it is very easy if you learn a single cloud, the other cloud technologies would be pretty much easy to go ahead and learn for sure, right? And I'm very good at SQL Server, Power BI from business intelligence, and I'm very good at PowerShell scripting. And being a project manager, I'm certified in ITIL Service Operations and Transition. So I'm very good at managing operations, people management, attrition, or client stakeholder, a lot of things from the management perspective, right? And I'm worked as a transition manager previously, so I'm very good at onboarding brand new projects from the customer. And even I was involved in the request for proposal in the biddings, at how we get projects and how we have to form and norm the team and how we can successfully deliver the projects. And I'm very good at offboarding the projects in the verge of completion as well. So you can see the certifications that I've completed from Azure or from other technologies. And top of that, I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. So since 2 years, I've been certified as a Microsoft certified trainer for Microsoft, and I'm very happy to hold that particular status in the future as well. So I believe with all of these, I'm super confident that I have all the eligibility to go ahead and teach you guys Microsoft Azure DevOps. So any questions at this point of time before we move further to the demo for the day?
As of now, no questions.
Great, thanks. Let's move on to the demo session. Okay. So do you think we will be learning DevOps directly without knowing the evolution, without knowing the traditional way of developing the software? Obviously, DevOps is a methodology where we will be following in order to successfully deliver a project with highest quality and security, right? But we don't directly learn DevOps. Why? Because DevOps is being used in the market since, I mean, more than 10 years, I can say, but it has now been to come into boom. But before that, we have to know the process that involves in developing a software and delivering into the production, right? So you take any product in the world, you take a laptop, you take a mobile phone, you take a mouse, a keyboard, a CPU, right? You take a water bottle, right? You take a fan, you take a tube light. Any product that you take in the market is following a step-by-step procedure, and that becomes a product, and the product would be released into the market, and people like us will go and purchase it. Agree?
Okay, agree.
Right. So let's talk about one of the product called laptop. Let's say I'm using a laptop of HP. Okay. So do you think all the parts are being manufactured by HP?
No.
All right.
No,
May I
sir.
know what are the parts
No, sir.
that HP might have manufactured?
HP
No, sir.
laptop.
Yes, HP laptop. So if I have to talk, probably the screen, I mean, the HD screen or full HD screen might be provided by some other company. Probably the panels might be provided by somebody. The processor is being provided by Intel. Battery might be provided by some other company. Then your keyboard is provided by some other. Probably motherboard is being developed by HP, right? Then you have multiple ports like USB port, SD card port, VGA port, Then you have LAN adapter or Wi-Fi adapters, Bluetooth adapters. These are being manufactured by multiple companies. But what HP is doing, they're assembling all the parts and they're putting their logo and they're selling it to the people like us. Correct? So if you
Yes,
take a
correct.
car manufacturing company, right? Let's take a Volkswagen, right? Probably Volkswagen being a car manufacturing company, they might be manufacturing only the engine. But do you think Volkswagen itself is manufacturing the car tires?
No.
No, not
No,
really.
probably Bridgestone, probably JK tires, MRF tires, Continental tires. A lot of other companies where they tie up with and they provide the tires. Agree? And do you see Volkswagen itself manufacturing the car seats, the entertainment system inside the car? No,
No, no.
there are other companies where they might have tied up. So altogether, when the car is coming out to the market, it's an assembly. They are doing it and they are putting a logo of Volkswagen and they are releasing it to the market. So for everything, there is a step-by-step process, correct? So if
Yes.
you
Yes, sir.
talk about preparation of rice, anybody wanted to have a talk with me so that we can
Yes.
have a generic talk to help you guys understand there is some preparation. Anybody wanted to have a talk? Just a casual talk as to know what is the preparation of rice for our lunch. Anybody?
Put on stove.
Okay, Chandrika. So let's have a talk then.
Yes, sir. Okay.
So what is the process of preparation of a rice? Can you tell me the step by step probably?
Yeah, first 2 cups of rice, and we will clean that rice for 2-3 times,
Mm-hmm.
and later 4 cups of water we will pour for
Mm-hmm.
2 cups of rice,
Yes.
and then we will put on the stove,
Mm-hmm.
and we will keep that bowl on the stove, and we
Mm-hmm.
will keep checking on whether it was cooking or not,
Mm-hmm.
maybe up to 30 minutes.
Yes. So you are telling
And after,
about you're telling about a manual preparation, agree?
yes,
So we have another preparation. What is that? Nowadays we are mostly using that.
automatic rice cooker.
Yes, absolutely, right? But there is a change in the processing here, agree? So what we do,
Yes,
let's assume we have to prepare rice for two people. You take 2 cups of raw rice. You will clean it properly at least by 3 to 4 times. Then you put double the quantity of water. Let's say 2 cups of raw rice, then you apply 4 cups of
4 cups.
water. Then you soak for some time if you have time. Agree? If you soak, what happens? The rice will be cooked properly. Correct?
yes, yes, yes,
Then what you do, if you have a rice cooker, you'll put the bowl in the rice cooker and you will switch on, and without a manual intervention, the rice would be cooked after 15 to 20 minutes. Agree?
yes, yes, sir. sir.
And the rice would be cooked absolutely perfect in rice cooker, right? But if it is a manual
Agree.
process, yes, you put the bowl or the vessel on top of the gas stove and you lighten the gas stove, and probably in the initial 3 to 4 minutes, you might have to put the flame in high flame. Agree?
Yes, sir.
What happens if you continuously put the flame in high flame and you were away out of the gas stove? What happens?
The rice will get burned.
Right? So it will boils up and it will come out. Agree?
Yes,
So
sir.
you should know you have to put 4 minutes in high flame, then you have to bring it to medium flame, but you still have to monitor, right? Then you
Yes,
have to put in a
yes, sir.
slow flame and you have to observe whether all the water were gone away or not. That's how you will be able to
Yes,
prepare the rice in manual method, right? And there
yes,
is
sir.
a separate preparation method for a biryani. Agree?
Yes, sir.
Why? Because we need to bring up all the spices. Probably we might use oil or ghee, right? There is a different process altogether. We'll talk about that later.
Paradigm
But
semi-clean.
now you might have understood there is a step-by-step procedure that we have to follow to prepare the rice. But will you be able to do the third step first, Chandrika?
No, sir.
No, right? You don't lighten up the vessel on the gas stove first, then you don't take a bowl and you don't put the raw rice and then you clean up and then you put it on the vessel that was already heated up, right? You don't do that,
Yes, sir. We don't.
right? Why? Because there is a step-by-step process that has to be followed,
Agree,
right?
sir.
So let's now get into the software development life cycle. So when I'm talking about software, what does that mean? Let's take a Google Chrome browser, right? So in Windows and laptops or anywhere you take, we tend to install Google Chrome. Why? Because everybody might have used to it, right? So whenever you install a Windows 10 operating system on a laptop, probably you might see at times Internet Explorer, by the way, that is decommissioned now, but you might see Edge browser. But we tend to install Google Chrome browser, agree? So how you install, you type in Google that download Google Chrome browser, then you have to install a .exe file, agree? The executable file.
Yes, sir.
Once you install it, you double click it and you give the admin privileges and it will be installed. Agree? But
Yes, sir.
for us, but for public like us, we're not bothering as to how that .exe file has been prepared, right? There are Google developers from Google might have developed a code and they have packaged it, right? That's the reason why all the source code files or the programming language files have turned into a package called .exe. So that .exe file is being provided to the public like us, where we are just downloading it and installing it, correct? But we don't know what is the
Yes.
hard work that has been behind. But we got a software, downloading it and we are installing it, right? Let's assume the GoToMeeting. Probably you guys might have attended by downloading the GoToMeeting software, right? Or you might have attended directly from the browser itself, right? Or you take Skype for Business software, right? Or you take any antivirus. So the companies are developing a .exe file and we are downloading it and we are executing it. But there is a lot of hard work behind developing that particular .exe file. They might have used .NET Core, C Sharp, ASP.NET, Java, whatnot. They've compiled the code and they have come up with a package called .exe file and we are able to successfully install, right? So for every software, there is a step-by-step procedure that we have to follow. So let's talk about software development lifecycle first. So what is software development lifecycle? It is basically a process which is being used by the software development companies, okay, to design, to develop, and to test the high quality softwares which can be used by the public. Guys, if you're not speaking it up, I request you to go on mute. Kalyan, can you go on mute, please? Lakshmi, can you please mute them? Okay, thank you. So what is software development lifecycle? It is basically a process, a step-by-step process which is being followed by the software development industries. So what are software development industries? Probably Infosys, TCS, Capgemini, Cognizant, a lot of other companies, right? So they follow a process to design a software and to develop a software and to test it to make sure that the quality of the software is with a high proportion, right? So they will also follow a lot of security mechanisms to make sure that the software that are being developed is absolutely fine, right? So they have certain timelines to deliver the software and they have to deliver it with the customer expectations. Whatever the requirements that we might have taken from the customer, they should absolutely match, right? There should not be basically any compromise and they have to follow the time and the respective budget that they might have been given, right? So in software development lifecycle, we have many models, right? So the rice preparation that we just spoke about, we talked about a couple of models. One is manual preparation, the other one is through electric rice cooker. In the same way, The development of a software follows a lot of models, right? Every model has its own step-by-step procedure, right? So we have waterfall model, we have agile model, and we do have V model, spiral model as well in the market, and we have many other models. So let's talk about waterfall model for the day. So what is waterfall model? The name itself says waterfall. Let's say if I've taken a cup of water and if I'm trying to pour it from the air to the ground level, will I be able to bring the water back? Probably no. I'm not a magician. Let's say if you take a river flows into a direction, right? So if water from in the river is flowing towards a direction, will I be able to bring the water back? No. So waterfall model is also the same thing. It has its disadvantages. But waterfall model has been used in the market 2 decades back. Yes, 20 years back, waterfall model has been used, right? So let's discuss in detail about the waterfall model for the day from a real-time example. So let me take out the slides and open up a paint. Let me open up a paint to discuss further, right? So as I said, the software development lifecycle would be having certain stages, right? So we have 7 stages which I have listed. I mean, it is not necessary to be 7. A few companies might use 5 stages, few companies might use 6 stages, but we are going with 7 stages now, right? So let's go with a real-time example to help you guys understand. Okay, so we will take a customer or a client as Flipkart for the day for the demo purpose. Why Flipkart? Why? Because everybody might be familiar with Flipkart. So Flipkart is basically an e-commerce website in India, correct? E-commerce website in India. May I know in which year Flipkart has been come into existence in India? Can anybody guess the year?
Maybe 2000.
Probably 2009-10. Okay, 2009-10. So let's assume we are in 2009. Okay, why? Because that's how we have to learn with examples. Let's assume we are in 2009 now. Okay, so Flipkart, obviously, how the websites, how the products will be coming out to the market. Obviously, one of the human being like us might be having an idea, right? So somebody invests in that idea, the development process will happen, and the output would be a product, right? That's how a startup will actually starts up. And now you see a lot of startups might be successful, like your Zomato, like your Paytm, like Cred, where we pay our credit card bills. A lot of other companies, that's how they started up, right? In the even Flipkart has started in the same way in 2009. So if somebody has having an idea, probably they might not be from programming background, but they might be having money, or somebody has invested in, and the Flipkart.com was coming into existence, right? So let's assume in 2009 we have a company which was established as Flipkart.com. So at that time they might not be having the e-commerce website, but they have plans to come out in the India market, right? So Flipkart, let's assume they have approached a company called TCS. So what is TCS? It's a software development company, right? So they helps the customer in developing the software and delivering it to them. Agree? So let's assume Flipkart, being a customer or a client, has given the project of developing the Flipkart website to TCS. Okay. So now what happens? TCS has grabbed the opportunity of developing the software. Now Flipkart has given 60 days to develop the software by TCS. Okay. 60 days is the time limit that Flipkart has set to TCS. Now TCS, what they have to do, since they have backed the project, so they are trying to follow the SDLC life cycle. They're trying to follow the SDLC life cycle. So in SDLC life cycle, software development life cycle, just assume preparation of rice, there is a step-by-step process. But developing a software also, there is a step-by-step process. So what are the stages that we have? The first stage is planning. Okay. Then the second stage is requirement analysis. The third stage is design. Fourth is development or implementation. The fifth stage is testing. Sixth is deployment, and the seventh is maintenance. So we'll be discussing in detail about each and every stage now, right? So what Flipkart has to do now, they have to plan the things. They're following the software development life cycle, and since they have got the project from Flipkart, they have to plan the things now, right? So how many days that they have got? 60 days. So for planning, they're allocating 5 days here. Okay, for the next stage of requirement gatherings, they are allocating 5 days. For designing, they are allocating 10 days. For developing, they are allocating 30 days. Why? Because developing the software using the programming language, it may be .NET, C Sharp, ASP.NET, probably Python, Java, Node.js, whatever the programming language that they take, developers, we have to give them priority and we have to allocate a lot of days for them, right? So 30 days, 1 month we are allocating for development itself. And once the development is done, the testing team will start testing the software. So we are allocating 5 days to them. Once the testing is done and once the testers have certified that everything is working absolutely as per the customer requirement, then the release and deployment team will release into the production, so that the flipkart.com will be available to the general public. Then the maintenance team will come and do the maintenance, server hardware maintenance, or probably they will take the feedback from the customer, things and stuff. So the 60 days have been now allocated to different stages, right? So in planning, what TCS has to do in the very first stage, cost planning. So in planning, we will have to decide, the TCS will decide, being a software development company, how many resources or headcount that is needed to develop flipkart.com. Let's assume we are going with 23 resources plus additional buffer. So why additional buffer? Why? Because in a given day, not all the 23 would be turning up to office, right? Probably we might be having planned leaves, we might be having sick leaves or emergency leaves. So on a given day, we might not be having all the people. So we might have 3 people absent for the day. So do you think, if there are people absent for the given day, can you go back to the customer and say that we don't have 3 people come today due to various issues? Do you think customer will agree for that?
No. So
No, right?
absolutely no.
Absolutely no. That's where we need to keep certain buffer, additional people. Let's say if we have 23 billable headcount, probably we might have had 2 or 3 people extra. So that's how we will be able to meet the deadlines of the project. We'll be able to successfully deliver the project within 60 days, right? That's where in planning, we'll be planning for headcount. Obviously, we'll have to plan for the billing. Probably these are the roles and responsibilities of not a developer, not a tester, not a Devops engineer. This is the role of a project manager or a delivery manager from TCS. So in planning, everybody from the leadership will involves and they decide how much headcount, what is the billable that we have to charge from the Flipkart for each and every employee that we are hiring for, right? Then we talk about the licenses or infrastructure. Obviously, in order to develop, we need to have Visual Studio, we need to have laptops, desktops, we need to have certain softwares like databases, we need to have Windows servers or Linux servers. So for that, customer has to pay. Then we talk about transport. Obviously, we have 23 employees plus buffer. They have to come from their home to office. Again, we have to drop from office to home, right? So transport has to be spoken in the billing. Then food, then probably the logistics, infrastructure, payment gateways, a lot of other things would be talked in planning section. So once planning is done, the requirement gatherings will happen from the Flipkart. So TCS has to go back to Flipkart and they have to talk about what are the requirements, how you wanted to have the flipkart.com designed, or what are the requirements. So what are the requirements? Probably let me open flipkart.com here now. So you see, whenever I open Flipkart, how I was able to open? I have internet access, I have a browser. So I was able to open it. So you see there is a banner here which says Flipkart logo. There is a search box. I've already logged in here. Otherwise, you see a login button, right? Then you can see become a seller, cart. You see the modules here, top offers, groceries, fashion, electronics. You see the ongoing day-to-day offers, and you see some days of deals of the day. Lot of things. And if you come down, you will be able to see the Flipkart address, the payment gateways, about Flipkart, contact us, carriers, customer care help, a lot of things, the social network handles. You're able to see everything. So everything would be happened in the requirement analysis. So who has to do this? The TCS has to take the requirements from Flipkart, right? So that's where the second stage would be coming up. So once we gather the requirements, we are following waterfall model now. So since we are following waterfall model, so this stage would be freezed. Once we gather the requirements, the requirement gathering stage would be freezed, right? Then the design team will come. Then the design team from TCS will come and they start designing the website. They start designing the website as to which module has to come at which situation, at which place they will decide. So once the design phase is done, they are taking 10 days, and the development team or the implementation team will come and start coding. Probably they might go with .NET, Java, any programming language, and they start coding the requirements. So how many developers we have? So you have 23 billable heads, correct? So how I have allocated the 23? For planning, we have 3 people. For requirement analysis, we have 3 people. For design, we have 5. And for development, we have 6 people, 6 developers. And for testing, we have 3 people, right? And for deployment and release, we have 2 people. For maintenance, we have 1. So this is how the resource allocation has been happened. So the 6 developers will start working on developing the software. Once the development is done, the testing team will come and start doing the testing, and they will certify whether the development team has developed the product as per the customer requirements or not. If not, they will be raising the bugs. They will be raising the bugs to the development team again. Again, the developer has to rework and they have to fix the bug. Again, the testing team will test it and certify, right? And once the testing is finalized, the deployment team will start deploying the things in the production so that it will be made available to public like us. So whenever you open up flipkart.com, yes, we'll be able to open it up. You can sign up or sign in, and you can look out for the products, and you can add them into the cart. You can add them into the cart and you can proceed towards the payment gateway, right? So you can order the products in Flipkart. Then the maintenance team will come into picture after post-production activities. So they will take feedback from the customer, they will monitor the server, they will do the maintenance, patches, upgrades, or Windows updates or Linux updates, probably any other updates that we have, they will be going and doing it. So I have a bug now, I just wanted to show from Flipkart. So let's see what is happening in this video after going through. Let's start playing it. Can anybody let me know what happened?
I think while picking the item, some error or some sort of thing might have happened inside the application. That's why it is just throwing a general exception saying that item, telling us to retry.
So I opened Flipkart. I'm trying to buy a table, right, for my kid. So I opened something. So I opened that item. Probably instead of opening that item, I'm getting something went wrong, which means there is a bug, right? So being a testing engineer, probably I can report that bug to the development team so that they have to fix it, right? So this is how the job of a tester, if I have to say, the job of a tester, right? So this is how TCS being from a development background, software development company, they will follow all of these stages. They will plan the things, they will gather the requirement from the customer, they will design the website, the developers will start working on the development. Once the development is done, testers will test it, and the release and deployment team will deploy into the production like this so that it would be available to the public, right? So now let's talk about the disadvantages of waterfall model. Why? Because this is a waterfall model that we are implementing, right? So the rice preparation, we have talked about manual method where the human intervention is needed all the time until the rice is getting prepared. But rice cooker, there is no human intervention. You just switch on the electric cooker and you do your work. You watch TV, you play with your kid, you can do anything. The rice would be prepared and it will auto switch off once the rice is done, right? So in waterfall model, there are a couple of major disadvantages. What are those? So as I said, once the requirements were gathered by TCS from the customer Flipkart, we'll be freezing them. We'll be freezing those requirements, right? And we will be going with the design, development, testing, deployment. Now let's assume the initial requirement that we have got from the customer is this top offer modules to develop it. So do you see any drop down in top offers module here? No, right? But you see in fashion, you have a drop down here. So now we have developed this module, we have tested, and we are able to deploy into the production. Now customer is coming and telling, hey TCS guys, I well and good, you guys have developed the top offers module. And when I click on this, you are showing up the deals of the day and the percentage of discount here, right? For fashion, some percentage of discount, for top offers, a lot of other things here showing up the discount, but I don't need like that. I need a drop down to be implemented in top offers, and it should show for fashion, for men clothing, it should say 20% discount. For women footwear, probably it should say 50% discount. For appliances, it should say 30% discount. So once I click on this drop down, the offer should be coming up like this. Okay, can you do that? So customer is requesting Flipkart. Will you be able to agree to customer requirement now? We are almost in deployment phase
No.
now, right? We won't accept. Why? Because it is a rework for us. It will be a rework. It will impact on the delivery of the project. Probably this 60 days might become 70 or 75 days. So if the days are increasing, who will be paying for the headcount here? Who will be paying for licenses? Who will be paying for transport, food, everything? If customer
TCS
is
has
okay
to
to
pay.
bone, probably, yeah, TCS has to pay. If customer is okay to pay, probably we can take it up. But it's a rework, entire rework that we might have to do. The design might have to change, right? The developers have to come up with a lot of changes. Then the testing has to test it again. A lot of things that has to be done. And let's assume the requirements have been fulfilled now. The testing team has successfully tested and it's time to deployment. Now customer is coming. Now customer is coming in between deployment phase and telling that, guys, you guys have uh, developed the modules in horizontal way. Can I get these modules in vertical here now? Is it possible? It might be possible, but it needs a lot of hard work again. A lot of time it will consume. That's where in waterfall model, we don't encourage customer to come in between and suggest for any new changes or changes to the existing requirements that we have given. So this is a very biggest disadvantage. The other disadvantage is there is a dependency between each and every team here. So how many days we have? 60 days, correct? So when planning team is taking 5 days to finish off the planning related stuff, the requirement analysis or gathering team has to sit idle for 5 days until the planning teams completes their work. So if that's the case, how many days the development team has to sit idle? 20 days, 5 days here, 5 days here, and 10 days here. 20 days development team don't have any work. Development team don't have any work. So like that, if you take deployment team, they have to sit idle for 55 days. They don't have any work. So this is the biggest disadvantage in waterfall model. So until and unless the first step is done, the second team won't have work, right? So this is also one of the disadvantage of your waterfall model. And here, let's assume TCS has backed the project. Do you think developers will start working on the code without setting up the infrastructure? Who will set up the infrastructure for development team in the traditional way of developing the software? Any idea?
Usually the company itself will do that.
Yes, the company's internal IT support has to set it up, correct?
Yes.
They have to give a
Network team.
laptop, they have to install the softwares, let's say Windows 10 operating system or MS Office or SQL databases or any Windows servers or Linux servers. or Visual Studio softwares or any compiler software, .NET, Java related applications, everything has to be installed by the internal IT team. So there is a gap in traditional way of developing. Why? Because the internal IT team might not be able to do or install everything on time. They might delay it. There is a communication gap there in traditional way of developing. That's where, in order to avoid all of these gaps and in order to speed up the process of software development, we have a methodology called Devops that has been come into picture. Devops that has been come into picture. So in Devops, how things happens, in Devops, how things happens. Let's assume I'll be taking a new paint. So let me take a snippet, then we can discuss about it. Right? So this is what this is, flipkart.com, correct? So how many developers that we have in the picture here? 6 developers, correct? Let's assume we just have 3 developers for Flipkart. Okay, in DevOps model, how it happens, in DevOps model. So let's assume we have 3 developers. So the developer 1 will start picking up this module and they start working on it. So developer 2 will start working on this module. Developer 3 will start working on this module, right? So by the time developer 1 finishes set off developing the top offers module, he will be going and picking up the fashion module. Developer 1. So by the time, since this module is free, you will be having the tester. The tester 1 will start testing this module. Okay, by the time the developer 2 finishes off and the tester 2 will come here and the developer 2 will pick up this. Okay, let's assume developer 3 is done with their work. Developer 3 will come here. Now, by the time the tester will finish off testing 1, then your release and deployment team will deploy this top offers in production. By the time the tester 2 has done, the tester 1 might pick up this, tester 2 again will go here, your release and deployment team will come, so they will deploy the groceries modules in the production. So by this time this is done, then the developer will be picking other modules. So this is how each and every team is parallelly working in DevOps. There is nobody who will be sitting free. So everything is happening parallelly. So why it is happening parallelly? Why? Because in DevOps, DevOps means dev development team plus IT operations team. So they will be collaborating, they will be coordinating at the ground level to make sure that there is no gap at all. There is no gap at all. So they will be simultaneously syncing up on daily basis and they will be working collaboratively, coordinatively to make sure that everybody is occupied and everybody, nobody is actually not sitting idle. So this way, if they do development, if they do testing, if they do deploy, right? And even the maintenance guy will monitor the website, the e-commerce website on regular basis for any outages, for any capacity issues, lot of things, right? So now tell me, instead of 60 days, if you implement DevOps approach, we'll be able to deliver the project in 40 days itself. Agree? But here,
Yes.
what is happening? There is a dependency of each and every team here. Until the development won't happen, the testing team won't pitch in. But here, we are going with one after another. We are going with one module after another, and every team is pitching in and doing their job. Once this is done, probably they will be pitching on to the other deals of the day, fashions, all of the other modules. So this is how each and every team is working together and working. They are working for a common goal. What is the common goal? They have gathered the requirement from the customer. They know the timeline and milestone of the project, right? And they're working to fulfill the respective needs without compromising on the quality and security, and they're delivering it to the customer. So this is nothing but your DevOps. So any questions so far before we move on to the PowerPoint presentations?
Sir, usually, I mean to say, even in the Agile model, if I'm not wrong, I mean they keep doing the same thing what you are doing in the DevOps side.
Yeah, so we will be basically implementing the Agile model in the DevOps methodology. So those goes hand to hand.
Understood.
Yeah, but in DevOps we do have a lot of tools, right? We will be discussing about what are those tools and why they are very useful in speeding up and coming up with an automation, right? So if you remember, this is what the model that we have discussed, waterfall model. We talked about requirements gathering, design, implementation, testing, deployment, and maintenance, right? And we have even discussed about the disadvantages, whatever that we have with waterfall model. So I don't wanted to go with that. So agile model, we already spoken about it indirectly, if I have to say. But if you implement agile model, what happens? The software development will be fastened, right? So we'll be able to meet the deadlines of the project. At times, we might be able to deliver within the deadlines as well, right? So agile is what nowadays everybody needs to be agile, right? We need to be very flexible. So in agile model also we'll be able to encourage the customer to come at any point of time in the stages that we have, and we can accept the changes that the customer is coming up with. So nowadays, if you don't accept any changes from the customer, probably instead of TCS, customer might choose another software development company. Why? Because other companies might be ready to accept the changes. Why? Because we are in 2022 and the technology has grown up like anything, has evolved. And if you are not encouraging and giving the space to customer, it is very hard for us to maintain those software development projects. Why? Because customer can change the mindset at any point of time. Why? Because customer Flipkart might be having a lot of competitors in the market. So initially they might have come up with a requirement, and that might change eventually. And we from the software development team have to ready to accept that change. If we are not accepting, customer will look out for other company where they will welcome the customer and they are ready to accept any change. So if you implement agile model, we are going in incremental cycles. We are developing the software in incremental cycles, right? So we can even take a small requirement and we can deploy into the production. That is what agile can go and do it. So that small requirement might be a change that the customer might be coming up with, right? So this is all about the agile model. So nowadays we need to be very agile, and the good example that we can go ahead and give is your Flipkart or Facebook.com or Instagram, Twitter, whatnot. Every website that you take, I mean, if you open Flipkart.com today, the same website you might not be able to see tomorrow. The user interface might have changed. Why? Because that is dynamically building it up, right? Why? Because due to change in the customer priorities, due to the sustainability in the business, they always have to change their user interface. So that can be possible only by implementing the DevOps. So we even spoke about the delay that is happening in the traditional way of developing, right? Where is the delay? The delay between the development team and the IT operations team. So this delay we will be able to avoid if you implement DevOps, right? So we spoke about some of the roles and responsibilities of development team so far. Let's now know about the responsibilities of IT operations. Why? Because we are gonna talk about DevOps. Development team we have discussed so far. Let's talk about what is the role of an IT operations team in DevOps projects. So what they do, they will try to install the software, hardware, and operating system that is required for the deployment of the software. They'll also configure and they will take care of the network connectivities. They will take care of setting up the storage. Obviously, for a website to be hosted into the public domain, obviously we need storage. We need the backend servers. Obviously, network connectivity. Without network connectivity, we won't be able to access it. Correct. So obviously, monitoring is important. Who will monitor? The maintenance and monitoring team Obviously we call it as IT operations team. They will be basically monitoring the servers for any outages, for any capacity reaches, right? So that's where they will always take about the outages as well. So the most important thing is they will also take care of the security. Why? Because the websites or the product that we are releasing into the market should not have to be hacked by the hackers. So from the security perspective, they will implement a lot of firewalls. They'll implement a lot of security mechanisms to make sure that the software they're releasing into the market is absolutely good, right? So they will also involve in the change control board. Why? Because once the software is deployed into the production environment, probably due to certain things, we might have to implement certain other changes as well to make sure that we are avoiding the downtime or we are future ready, right? A lot of things that we have to do from the change control board as well. So your IT operations team will take care from the change control as well. So the most important thing is, let's assume if you go from a real-time perspective, obviously flipkart.com is hosted in cloud already. Let's assume Flipkart is only hosted in Chennai data center of India. What if Chennai data center goes down? Will you guys be able to access flipkart.com?
No.
No, right? If there is no, what is it for Flipkart? What are the consequences that Flipkart has to face? Probably downtime, reputation. They will take it on reputation and a lot of revenue loss. Why? Because if there is downtime of Flipkart, customers won't be able to proceed or make orders, right?
Yes.
So in those instances, Flipkart has to come up with backup infrastructure, or they have to come up with a disaster recovery planning. So in Chennai data center, they can maintain their infrastructure, and as a backup, probably they might have to choose Pune or Mumbai data center, right? Or as a disaster recovery site, probably they can go with any US data centers, Europe data centers, Australia, African data centers, right? So who will manage? The IT operations team will take care of this backup and disaster planning. So they will also take care of production related activities, right? So these are all the roles of a IT operations team in DevOps project. Now let's talk about Microsoft Azure. What is Microsoft Azure? Why? Because we are going to learn DevOps on Microsoft Azure platform. So Azure is one of the cloud service that has been developed by Microsoft, right? So Microsoft is one of the big product-based company in the world, and it has been into the operating systems from 1970s, right? They have come up with the Windows XP, then Windows 7, then Windows 8, 8.1, then Windows 10. Now we are in Windows 11. Along with that, they have even been into server operating systems, correct? So they have also come up with cloud services, and they have named it as they named the cloud services as Microsoft Azure, right? So we can basically go ahead and use this platform to build, test, deploy, and manage our applications and services using Microsoft managed data centers, right? So they have many data centers throughout the world where we can go ahead and implement our infrastructure. And the very good part is so far we have 3 data centers in India. We have one in Mumbai, the other is in Pune, and the last one is in Chennai. And Microsoft has recently announced that they're going to come up with a brand new data center in Hyderabad as well, which is going to be the 4th data center in India. And Hyderabad's data center is going to be the second largest data center in the world of data centers from Microsoft Azure. So a lot of opportunities for the folks in Hyderabad or in India from Microsoft perspective. Anyways, we have a lot of opportunities from Azure admin or Azure DevOps, but with the data center that is going to come up, you can just think of the opportunities, right? Let's move on. So DevOps and its importance. What exactly DevOps is? We have already discussed. It's all about bringing up the people together, right? People from multiple departments. Let's say your developers, your testers, your Azure infrastructure team, your server management team, your ITIL team, incident management, problem change management, your Scrum Master, right? Every team we will be bringing it together, and everybody would be working for a same goal. What is that same goal? building and delivering the project within the timelines with highest quality and security, right? And if you use DevOps approach, we would be able to implement a lot of automation things, and that will help the customers to achieve the goal in lesser time, probably by saving on the budgets as well. That's where everybody is now moving on to DevOps, right? So it will basically add value to the customer environment, and which is future ready. So if in case we have to come up with any added features into the existing website in the future, probably we can go ahead and do that with ease, with hassle free. That's the reason why people, most of the companies are going and adopting DevOps now, right? So if you take 100 customers as an example, probably 95 customers were already moving and using DevOps approach. Only few customers who might be still using the outdated technology to develop their softwares, right? So this is the Azure DevOps lifecycle. This is Azure's DevOps lifecycle. You see, it's actually going in a loop. This is a never-ending process. So the first thing is you will plan the things from the customer. Then you start developing it, right? Then you will integrate and build. You will come up with a package. The package would be tested and it will be released into the production environment. Then your monitoring and maintenance team will come in picture, and they will do all the post-production related activities. They will monitor the servers, they will take the feedback from the customer, and even they will take the feedback from the client as well. And they will again plan the things. The developers will develop, the DevOps engineers will integrate and build and come up with the package. The testers will test, the release will happen. Again, whatever that we release into the production, the monitoring team will manage. So this is how it will goes on a loop. It will goes in a loop always. So at each and every stage, we see we are using certain tools. For planning, we'll be using Azure bots. So all of these tools are inbuilt in Microsoft Azure DevOps. So for planning, we'll be using Azure boards. For integration, we'll be using Azure pipelines. For developing, we'll be using Azure repositories, where we'll be talking about GitHub integration, right? For packaging the things, we'll use Azure artifacts. For testing, we have Azure test plans. For releasing and for monitoring, we have lot many other tools, right? So this is how your development team and operations team will collaborate and coordinate and will come up with the end product, and they will deploy into the production. So this is all about the life cycle, and we'll be getting in detail about each and every service that we have, and we'll be discussing in the real time. So now all of you might be having a question as to why you guys have to invest time and wanted to get into cloud computing, correct? So if we have to talk about facts, we might be having three kinds of people. One is a fresher who might have recently passed out. Then we have a people from non-technical background. They might be already doing jobs, but they might have fed up with their current package. Probably they might not be able to cope up with their manager or company, or they might not have satisfied with their salary. And you have the third category, people who are already an IT employee, who might be working in different technology like Windows admin, VMware admin, system admin, desktop admin, or a technical support engineer, or an ETL developer, or a testing engineer, or a developer itself. Probably they are working in other technologies altogether, right? And even they might not be satisfied with the kind of work they are doing, or their manager, they are not satisfied, or with the company, or the kind of pay that they are getting is not satisfied. So all of you might have inquired in the market and got to know that Microsoft Azure DevOps from the cloud computing is doing very good in the market. There are a lot of openings. So that is the reason why you guys might have here to attend the demo session, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Right. So your intent was very clear here, that whatever that you might be doing currently, you might wanted to excel and wanted to learn a new technology. That is the reason why you might have chosen the booming technology in the market. So your goal is simple here, if I understood it correctly. Your goal is you have to learn this course in the stipulated time. Let's say we will be going and doing this course in 40 to 45 days. And once the course is done, you guys have to crack an interview and you guys have to get a job as a DevOps engineer, isn't it? Your goal is This is what is your goal. Agree?
Yes, sir. Absolutely
So
correct.
I'm here from Career IT Institute to fulfill your goal. So I would be there in each and every part. Why? Because being an interviewer, being a manager, I know what kind of interview questions that the market is actually asking, what kind of job descriptions that we have, what kind of openings that we have. I know everything, so I'll be taking part in each and every thing on daily basis. And my goal is to help you to get a job, right? I'll be able to help you in a lot of interview questions. I'll be preparing you. This is wrong. This is how you should be. I'll be providing a lot of improvements and I'll be making you sure to be ready to give an interview by the end of this course, right? So I'm able to here to help success whatever the goal that you have. Your goal is simple: learn the course, crack an interview, get a job. So I'm here to fulfill your goal, guys, from Career IT, right? So as I said, there's a lot of demand in the market and we have very less supply. So let's say if you take 100 jobs in the market, we hardly have 45 people. Those 45 people includes the freshers who might be getting trained now. Those include non-technical people who might have fed up and wanted to learn this course and wanted to get a job. And there are genuinely working on Azure DevOps, but they might not be satisfied with the Azure DevOps in their current company and they wanted to switch their company. And you have people who might be from different IT backgrounds and they wanted to learn this course and they wanted to get a job. So 45 people include all of these categories. So there are a lot of jobs, but the market is not enough to basically supply. That's where we have a lot of candidates who are going and opting for this course and getting the jobs, right? So once you probably get trained, even you can train others as well. That is the confidence that I can give. But will you guys able to train others just like that? No. What I expect is I expect a lot of hard work, lot of interest that has to be shown, and you guys should have dedication and determination, right? So if you have these four, you will be able to learn the course so quickly, right? And there is no prerequisite that is needed, guys, to learn Azure DevOps. So I'm here to take you guys from the scratch. So I'll be just opening up the course content as well, and we'll be letting you guys know what we will be covering it. But there is no prerequisite as such it is needed. Why? Because even freshers can attend this course. That is what I'm saying, right? So for experience, for you can just think of as to there is no prerequisite that is needed, right? So let's move on to the
Any
certification.
in any coding background needed?
No, I'll be answering your questions. Let's give me a
Okay,
minute.
sure.
So I'm open to the question and answers once we are done. I'm just one slide away so that we can start up with the Q&A. So people will always ask about certifications, right? Kranti, okay, we are doing this course. Is there any certification that is needed or mandatory? If you ask me, I don't say it is mandatory. It is optional. It's up to you whether you wanted to take it up or not. But being a interviewer, let's assume if you have 10 people who have taken up the course and the other 10 people who have taken up the course and who have completed certification as well. But both of them have to clear me, right? Clear the technical round. They have to show their technical ability. I cannot just go through them in the technical round stating that they have cleared the certification, correct? We don't know on what basis they have cleared the certification. Few people might clear the certification genuinely. Few people will give money to a proxy and they will help you to get the certification, right? So, I mean, I will be able to judge by asking certain questions whether it is a genuine clearance or whether they might have taken somebody's help. But for me, certification is not mandatory. It's an optional thing. Even if you hold a certification or not, you definitely have to clear my technical round. You definitely have to satisfy me. Then only probably I'll be able to select. Like me, a lot of other technical interviewers, they will also go with the same approach. But few people will show interest in clearing the certification. So what I advise is the very first thing in cloud, if people wanted to move to cloud, they will go with Azure fundamentals first, which is AZ 900. Then they will be moving on to AZ 104, which is Azure Administrator, right? Then only they can go to AZ 400, which is Azure DevOps. So for doing a DevOps engineering certificate, either you have to clear AZ 104 or you have to clear AZ 204. Okay, this is mandatory to go with your DevOps certification, guys. So this is from the certification perspective. Let me open up the course content now. So once we are done, I'm open to take up any questions that you guys have. So let me open the course content. I believe the course content is visible. So we will start with the basic introduction to DevOps in the live classes, right? Then we'll be talking about the IT architecture and the domain naming servers. We'll talk about networking. We will talk about the basics of cloud computing. This is common across all the cloud computing technologies that you can say. Then we'll be getting into the Azure basic fundamentals. So we'll talk about what is subscription, what is an account, what is a tenant, what is a resource group, what are the kinds of resources that we have, and we'll spend some time in understanding about Azure networking concepts. Then we'll be pitching on to Linux. So there is no experience or uh, you should know about Linux commands. Why? Because I'll be starting from the scratch. Whatever that I am going with, I'll be starting from the scratch. There is no prerequisite that is needed. So I'll be talking about the basic Linux commands and whatever that is required for the DevOps related stuff. So for DevOps, Linux is a must. Linux is must for DevOps. So I'll be able to teach you from the scratch anyways. So once the Linux concepts is done, we'll be getting into Azure Compute, where we'll be deploying virtual machines. We'll be talking about what is availability zone and set. Okay, what are virtual machine scale sets, right? What kind of images or operating systems that we have. Then we'll be moving on to some networking concepts, right? So how we can configure the security groups, right? And how we can do load balancing, how we can talk about the DNS concepts. Then we'll move on to the storage. So storage is also one of the most important topic. Obviously, you can store your data in the cloud. So we'll talk about blobs, different kinds of storage accounts, things and stuff. Then we'll be moving on to some DevOps concepts like Git, the source code management tool. We'll going with Git, GitHub, right? Then we'll talk about the deployment using infrastructure as a code. So we'll use code to deploy the infrastructure. So for that, we'll be going with Terraform. So this is a tool where we'll be using some code to deploy the infrastructure in Azure, right? Then we'll talk about Ansible, which is a configuration management tool. We'll configure our server hardware, operating system things uh, in the Ansible tool. Then we'll be moving on to the build and release tools called Jenkins, right? So we'll do a lot of continuation integration and continuous delivery related concepts here. Then we'll be moving on to the most happening things called Dockers and Kubernetes, right? So you can make your career in Dockers itself, Docker Kubernetes alone, right? That is how the market is nowadays. So we'll be deep diving into the Docker and Kubernetes concepts. Then we'll be moving on to the Azure monitoring. Obviously, for after deploying into the production, we have to set up monitoring as to how we are monitoring our infrastructure. We'll be looking into Azure monitoring, where we'll be talking about certain alerts, metrics, action groups. Also, we'll be looking one of the other monitoring called Nagios. So how we install, how we configure the Nagios, and how we monitor our servers. We'll be looking into it using Nagios tool, right? So then at last we'll be moving on to Azure DevOps services. So whatever that we have looked into from the life cycle of Azure DevOps perspective, we'll be talking about Azure boards, repos, pipelines. We'll be looking into it, the CI/CD and test plans, and last artifacts. So with this, we'll be concluding the course. And the very good part is each and every concept that we might have put here, we'll be looking everything from the real-time perspective, including interview questions, interview tips and tricks, and whatever the issues that we might come across and how we have to go ahead and handle them, right? So this is what the course content that we have, guys. So now I'm open to any questions that you guys might be having. Any questions?
Yeah, this Prem here. So I would like to know, will it be helpful or will it be advantageous to know some coding background, or is it not? Is it okay not to have?
There is no coding as a prerequisite here. Why? Because we are not developers here. We are DevOps
Hmm.
engineers, right? After
Okay.
learning this course, our role
Okay.
would be DevOps engineer. So we do
Okay.
certain coding, but you can leave it up to me. Why? Because I'm here to teach you from the scratch, right?
Okay.
Why?
Okay.
Because if you have to learn something which is currently booming in the market, there are certain prerequisites for sure. But if you ask me, and if I have to talk about facts, DevOps is somebody who might be an experience. Why? Because at times there is maturity that will definitely play a role here. Probably Azure admin or AWS admin or some admin roles that you take. Probably anybody can go with it, even if you take a fresher. For DevOps, yes, there are some prerequisites that are needed, but I'm covering from the scratch. So once we complete this course, you should be comfortable and you should be able to sustain once you get a job for sure. That you can leave up to me.
Okay. Thank you.
Sir,
Good morning,
I'm
Kranti.
Ravi.
We have a couple of questions like what is
Got it.
the timing and duration of the session? And also, do you provide these training videos on daily basis?
Yes. So the trainings videos would be provided and you would be having lifetime access, including the documentation. So I'll be providing documentation as and when required. So I'll be uploading into the Google Drive. So you guys can get the video recordings as well as the documentation from me so that you can go ahead and practice from your end as well. We are going to start the batch from this Wednesday, right? From 13th of July, and the timings would be from morning 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. IST. Okay, and the course duration would be 40 to 45 days. I think we have already pinged in the chat window. So if you want to go ahead and
Thank
enroll,
you.
we have a contact number that has been given. Yes, you can go ahead and call them up so that you can take it further. But we are starting from this Wednesday, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. in the morning from this 13th of July. Welcome.
Thank you, Kranti.
Welcome.
Hi, sir.
Any,
My name is Ravi.
yeah, Ravi, good
Hello.
morning.
Very good morning, sir. A warm welcome to you in explaining all the basic concepts. I am a software developer. I work in .NET.
Mhm.
Okay. What is the role of a developer if we opt for DevOps? Let me elaborate a bit on this. See, I am a developer. I
Mhm.
mean, it will be an addition if I learn DevOps. Still, my role will be a developer in the DevOps when I go for it, or how it will be.
So being a developer, yes, learning Azure DevOps would definitely be added advantage to your profile and it will provide you a lot of weightage for sure, right? And obviously I mean, you might be doing development in the traditional way right now, Ravi.
Yes, sir. I mean, we use C#, .NET, ASP.NET. I mean, everything and
Yes.
all. I mean,
So if
it's
you
like
learn Azure DevOps, you would still be in a developer role if you want, but you would be using some tools called GitHub. Okay, so to some extent, probably the Jenkins, right? Or if you are wanted to get into the Azure DevOps inbuilt tools, probably you mostly use Azure boards, Azure repos, right? There are certain tools which will be coming into picture, but the future is DevOps. So, I mean, if you might have already heard outside, or if you got something from this demo session, I mean, if you are okay, you can definitely go ahead and adopt it. This will definitely add an advantage. You can be a developer or you can be a DevOps engineer as well. It's up to you. But DevOps engineering roles, you have a lot of demand in the market, or we have a lot of open positions that were already there, but we have less people, and the market is growing. Why? Because you have a lot of customers who are going and adopting the DevOps approach now.
okay, sir. Is there any classes in the evening, sir? I mean to say, I stay in Malaysia.
Okay.
Everyone are aware that we are all back to office.
Yeah.
Usually 7 to 8 a.m. will be here. It is 2.5 hours ahead of India. So I will be
Yeah.
9:30 minutes. It will be. I'm quite fascinated by the way which you have.
You would be already in the office.
No. Today is Sunday, sir, so I'm in the home. What I'm trying to tell you is, I mean,
I'm
the
talking about the
hours.
weekdays. Yeah.
Yeah, usually I'll be at on the office. maybe not possible. Is there any, I mean to say, work around something like that in the evenings or something like that, any other classes? But the way which you have
I mean, as
told
of now, we don't have any weekend back. But we are planning, but we'll be letting you know, Ravi.
because the way which you have told everything, I was quite fascinated with those things. And even from the career perspective, also, I want to learn some new things which will enhance us in every aspect. That's what I feel.
Yeah, definitely we'll get back to you if we have any evening batch, Ravi, for sure. Yeah, but thanks. I mean, I appreciate your feedback. And this is how my training would be, the live training. So I'll always take about the day-to-day examples so that people will able to understand it, right? Whatever the software
Yes.
development step-by-step procedure. Even if you
Yes.
take any class, that's how I'll be able to bring it up so that a layman can also understand the concepts.
Yeah, I mean, usually, I mean, still I can go ahead with by learning the classes through online. I mean to say, your class, I can do it later, something like that in the bin. But one-to-one interaction would be a better way of learning the course. That's what I feel.
Yeah. Any other questions that you guys have?
సార్ ఇప్పుడు కోర్స్ 2 months ఉంటుందా సార్ డ్యూరేషన్?
It's 40 to 45 days, Dinesh.
40 to 45 days.
Yeah, so we will be generally going
Okay.
with Monday to Friday, but at times we may take on Saturdays as well. So it lasts for 40 to 45 days.
ఒక వెన్స్డే నుంచి క్లాస్ స్టార్ట్ అవుతుంది అంతేనా?
Yes, Wednesday from Wednesday.
at 7 a.m.
Yeah, morning 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. IST.
So, Kranti, so regarding technical speaking, so while doing the junction, so
Mhm,
do we do any deployments or while learning the Docker? So do we
mhm.
create any Docker experience? Everything we will get it right.
Yes, everything from real-time perspective. There is not only the conceptual thing from the theory, we'll also implement it. So I'll always talk about what I did, what are the consequences that I might have got due to any misconfiguration, how we have achieved that in successfully implementing it. Everything would be spoken about in real time itself.
Got it. And the final question is that do we explain any real-time scenarios where we can put one project in front of the interviewer? So do we
Mhm.
get anything like that?
See, on daily basis, it's like a project. So other institutes will use a separate world call, will also do a project. But here, every day is a project. So don't you think, I mean, you might have gone with the demo. Didn't I explain the entire how we get a project, how we end up?
No, no, no. I got it. I got it. What I
Yeah.
mean to say is that suppose when we ask someone as an interviewer, if you ask,
Mhm.
tell me about your project. So at least do we in a position to explain what we did
It's
in the project as an individual performer or as a principal architect or as a scrum master. So something we need to explain, right? So in that scenario, so here we are the individual performer.
Yes, obviously, this is a DevOps engineer role, right? Even your leads, project leads, or managers will also be able to attend this. I mean, that's how in previous batches, if I have to see, people with 22 years of experience, 25 years of experience, where they were already a delivery manager, will still uh, gone through this course. Why? Because whatever the development that they might have done in the traditional way, but they are getting a new project and that one Azure, so they wanted to move to Azure DevOps. That's where they get into it. But if you talk about a delivery manager, it not be an individual contributor. It is at a delivery level, right? It's a leadership level, if you have to say. But this course would mostly we will deal with a DevOps engineering role. We will also put ourselves in developer shoes at times, tester shoes, Scrum Master. We have to put in Azure infrastructure team, probably an ITIL team, incident management, problem change management. Probably we would be having some server roles as well, right? Why? Because ultimately we develop the product and we deploy in the infrastructure. It may be Windows Server, Windows or Linux server. So we'll deal from all the perspectives, and I'll be pulling in the role every time, right? Whatever that I'm doing. So this is a role of a developer. This is not a role of a DevOps engineer. That is how I'll actually go further.
Got it. Got it. So while doing the monitoring, do you install Azure and Prometheus
Yes,
and everything, right?
yes, we'll install.
Okay, got it. Got it. So no, we are not going to touch any Kafka,
No,
only
not
till Terraform.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Grant.
Welcome. So we've included all the majority tools that are actually doing pretty much good in the market now.
But one
Any
thing
other?
is like in the Azure, so do we touch RabbitMQ?
No, no, we don't.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you, Kranti. Really, it's useful and helpful for your complete information.
Welcome. Thanks for the feedback. Any other questions? I think this is the right time, guys. I know that you might have a lot of questions before we attempt this demo. I mean, even though it is a silly question, let's go ahead and ask why, because it might be a valid question for others. So it's time for you to go ahead and clarify.
Hi, this is Jeevan.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, what
Hi, Jeevan.
exactly the role of DevOps engineer? What is the role of DevOps engineer exactly? What it is?
So the
Is it
DevOps
includes
successful.
networking and configuration? Is all whether these all also included or is any exemption on it?
So why we have put everything and why we are learning in a single course is basically DevOps is a combination of your development and IT operations, correct? So whatever the infra thing that will be taken care by your IT operations team. Being a DevOps engineer, we will be more focusing on the build and release. When you're talking about build, we'll talk about the continuation, integration, and continuous delivery. So on each and every
Okay.
day, you have to have the CI/CD pipeline runs. So for that,
Okay.
there is an infrastructure that should be set up, right? So where do you deploy your application or product? You have to employ in the backend in server hardware configuration, right?
Okay.
So a DevOps engineering project would be having Azure infrastructure team separately. But what if the
Okay.
Azure infra team is not present on a given day? So being a DevOps engineer, you can yourself set up the infrastructure and you can go ahead and deploy it, right? So
Okay.
infrastructure you will learn here as an added advantage, and that will be having a lot of weightage for you as well. So being a DevOps engineer, we are not just learning the CI/CD pipelines, we are learning the infrastructure as well, the end-to-end, how we get projects and how we deploy them, how we monitor everything we are doing it. But in a DevOps project, we might be having individual people to monitor. For monitoring, you might be having separate people. For CI/CD, obviously DevOps engineer, developer role is something different, tester role is something different, Scrum Master role is something different, your Azure Infra team role is something different. But if you are learning this course, probably you can do a tester role at times, you can do DevOps engineering, monitoring role, even you play Azure Infra role as well.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. Any final questions before we conclude for the day? So I just want to repeat that we are gonna start the new batch from this Wednesday, 13th of July onwards. Monday to Friday, we might take on Saturdays as well. The timing would be 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. in the morning IST timings. So if you want to enroll, you can always reach out to your the number which was provided in the chat window already.
Hi, sir. This is Kalyan.
Hey Kalyan.
Yeah, good morning. So
Very
I
good.
am working as a database developer. So
Mhm.
if I learn this course, so can I move that like from database development to DevOps engineer?
Yes, obviously, it's just that your gut feeling, right? So you should be
Yeah.
able to get into a positive way to learn anything. Yes, DevOps is already having a lot of opportunities. Yes, we can.
Okay. So that you need to put that experience as well, right? From like in the
Yes, we have
DevOps
to
role while
project. We have
completing.
to project.
Yeah.
And
So
you
after
guys no
completion of
need
this
to
thing,
worry. I understand that for an experienced IT employee who might be working in a different technology, learning DevOps, we definitely have to project some experience of at least 1.5 year to 2 years, and we have to look for opportunities outside. And this course will definitely help you to put 2 years experience straight away, right? So why? Because we'll always discuss from real-time perspective, interview questions, your roles and responsibilities. So you should not have to worry once you join a company. So sustainability is the thing which we'll always discuss in the course.
okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Are you
One last question.
suggestible any companies for that interviews?
I mean, if I come across any, I'll definitely provide the links where you can go ahead and apply. But I will probably tell you how we can search for the jobs, right? In the job portals or in the Google directly. You have a lot of man. You have a lot of
Yes, yes, yes.
openings. There should not be any way.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Welcome. Any final questions? I think we are running
Yeah,
behind the time.
yeah.
So
Sorry, it was late, but yeah, one last question.
sure, sure.
What kind of scripting are we like included? Because for like configuring like CI/CD or like Spinnaker kind of things, Jenkins. So, are we using only shell scripting or like any other scripting we are gonna learn on this stuff?
Yes, so we will learn something called pipeline scripting that we would be having the Jenkins. So that would be auto-generated if you give certain, if you select something from the drop downs, probably that you will be able to see when we start Jenkins. But Linux is the most that we will be going and looking into it, if I have to say. Why? Because
Okay.
everything that we might do.
In the core structure, I see a Kubernetes also. Like for Kubernetes means like we need to. You're going to have some insights on YAML language also, or like.
Yes, we'll have on Lime YAML, we'll learn certain Kubernetes commands, Docker commands, we'll deploy containers. So everything we'll do it on Linux platform. That's
Yeah.
where Linux is important.
Yeah, what my question is like not like commands, but do we have any certain time for learning the YAML? So if we want to build the Kubernetes like pods or anything, we need to configure the pods, right? So then we need to build like YAML stuff, right? That's what.
Yes, we will be focusing for 2 days on YAML itself. So we should have a lot of objects which we have to deploy. So we'll spend at
Hmm.
least 2 days on learning YAML itself.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Any final questions?
Hi, one more question.
Yeah.
Actually, this DevOps architect and DevOps engineer, are these two are different or same or what?
DevOps architects is the next level of DevOps engineering. So obviously
Okay.
you should have hands-on experience if you have to move to DevOps architect. Why? Because DevOps
Yeah.
architect is the one who will try to configure everything from the scratch. So without getting any experience, you cannot directly get into architect position. So probably if you take up this course and if you join in a company as a DevOps engineer, you spend at least 1.5 to 2 years. Meanwhile, you'll be able to understand what is the role of an architect and how you can get into that role. There is some other
Yeah.
specialization, probably in-depth concept knowledge we need to know about it from the scratch.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for taking out time on your Saturday evening or Sunday morning and attending this demo session on Azure DevOps. I hope you guys have liked it. So if in case you want to enroll, you can always reach out to our institute. The contact number has been already given in the chat window, right? So the batch is going to start from Wednesday, 13th of July from morning 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. IST time. Thank you all. Have a great day. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.